Hello YouTube, welcome to my garage. If you guys been following me, I recently did a video about changing all the brake components, refreshing the brake on my 2005 Lotus Elise. So today we're gonna do the bleeding procedure. So what I have is a power bleeder. I got it hooked up to the brake reservoir. So what I did is I pressurized this up to make sure there wasn't any leaks anywhere obvious. I did find out that there were some leaks around like a couple of these connections on the brake, so that's why I added like another hose clamp here. But overall, that holds pressure fine, which does mean that all my connections I did are pretty good. Now that is not the full pressure of the system, but at least there's no obvious uh, leaks anywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and I got, since I'm doing a complete new flush, with air in the system, I went ahead and got two of these jugs. So just found this on Amazon. Dot 4 is not like any like racing type. This is just kind of the standard. And so I'm going to go ahead and fill up our reservoir, and luckily I have a lift. So the first thing we do is the clutch. So we're going to lift the car up, get under it, do the clutch, do the rear brakes, and then we're going to tackle the front brakes. So let me go ahead and start filling up my reservoir. All right, I got the front of the car with plastic down, just worried I'm going to spray some brake fluid on it, so better safe than sorry. Went ahead and put both in, and I started pumping up to about 10 psi there. So that's probably too much fluid, but I'm not going to reuse it, so just might as well use both bottles. So let's go ahead and lift the car up, then let's look for the clutch. All right, so I'm under the car, got my bleed bottle set up. So basically pretty close to the oil filter, and it takes an 8mm, so that's the slave cylinder. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack it open. Make sure I have it's an 8mm wrench right there. So let's see what comes out. Oh, I need more force. Okay, it's quite tight. Let me get her started first. All right, it's gonna be pretty hard to see, but crack it open. You can see some coming out. Coming out kind of slowly. There you go. Definitely coming down here. So I'm just gonna let it run for a little bit. Some of this had some old caliper fluid in there, so I'm just gonna sit here and let it bleed out a little bit. Make sure I got a good flush through the clutch pedal here. All right, got the clutch bled pretty well. So next thing we're gonna do is the far side, and I actually don't think it matters which side you do first, because I think the line comes to the rear then splits off, but we're gonna go ahead and do the passenger side. So got an empty bottle. So don't see anything coming out yet. Let me go check I did check, I have pressure there at the pressure bleeder. So let me give it some time and it might come out. All right, not getting anything out the passenger side, but came to the driver's side, and the driver's side works fine. So gonna go ahead and bleed this side first, and then we'll go to the other side. All right, so let's bleed the front. So I took the caliper bolts off. I'm gonna put one back in so I can crack this 11mm. A little tight. Oh, really tight. I need to tap it. Moved a little bit. Okay. Wow. Boy, that is tight. All right. So let's. Okay. Got a little bit of oil fluid. So, believe the problem with this one is that you really need to be kind of flipping it over like this to get all the air out, and then kind of working it back and forth. So let's go ahead and do this. Boy. Oh boy, I don't know why that bleeder screw is really tight on there. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Pretty nasty. So you can see there's some air in there. So I'm going to invert it, open it. Okay. And then what we want to do is be kind of and then just do that back and forth, I believe. Yep, I think we're bubble free. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount it, and then I'm gonna maybe let it bleed out a little bit. Just get some volume through it. So these bolts get some Loctite. Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna let it bleed out a little bit, but it's nice and clear. So that is it for the front. So I do have a problem with the passenger rear. I can't get anything out of there, so I think I have a bad caliper, a C's caliper. When I was putting the pad on, that caliper was kind of hard to put the pad on, like there wasn't enough space. So I think I have a bad rear caliper. I'm gonna look at rebuilding that, or possibly getting a used one, or a working one. But for now, that is how you bleed the clutch, the rear, and the front brakes.
Alright, the next job for me is to leak check the oil lines and coolant lines. We did a lot of work on the oil system with several connections and new components. We also change out the expansion tank, so there are possible leak points on that system too if I did not do a proper install there. So the first thing I did was to fill up the oil filter and install it. I also filled up the car with approximately 4.5 quarts of oil. That was until I had a reading on the dipstick. I'm happy to say that the modifications I did on the oil pan earlier in the projects worked, and I was able to slide the dipstick in and out easily, and was able to get a good reading on the dipstick. So I did want to just jump in and start the engine right away. I probably could have been fine with that, but instead I wanted to be safe, and what I did was pull the R1 fuse in the engine compartment. So this 20 amp fuse is for the fuel pump, and so that means I can crank the car and not have the car start on me. So with this, I have a dual oil pressure and temperature gauge installed, so that numerical readings read out the pressure and the outside bars read the temperature. So I cranked the engine over, it's probably 20 seconds and so until I had some reading on the gauge, and it read about 4 psi. So I know oil pressure was building. So after that, I installed the R1 fuse back and started the car. Car started right up. So that worked, and I was able to get oil pressure reading right away, and the car kind of idled fine. So then I jumped down and started looking at all the connections. I was happy to say that I did not see any leaks. So I just let the car idle like that for approximately 10 minutes or so until the water temperature got up to what I consider operating temperature. This was around 188 to 190 or so Fahrenheit. That was read by the dash. I have an AIM dash, so it read out the numerical numbers. And then the oil temperature on the gauge was reading above 190. So the way I knew this is because the gauge, I configured it for the first yellow bar to be at 180. And then the second bar is another 10 degrees or so, so it was above 190 but not quite 200. And at this temperature at idle, we're seeing 22 to 23 psi. So I did not use the 5W40 for this because I'm going to drain it out, so I kind of used just the oil I had on hand. So after about 10 minutes of idling, everything was stable temperature wise, and I still don't see any leaks. So we're going to call all our connections good, and the testing a success. So after this, I'm probably going to start it a couple more times and check for leaks, just be thorough, and going to do a quick oil change. After that, I'm going to put the proper oil back in and put the various panels back on the car and basically get her ready for the road. Obviously, with bleeding the brakes, I'm going to have to do some testing of that on the road as well. Make sure all the pads are fine. By the time I did end up making this video, I did get a new caliper for the rear passenger side, and that bled fine after I put the new one in, so that's all good and installed. So yeah, thank you all for watching and following my progress for my winter projects. So make sure to check back in for the next video. We're gonna unbox the mystery part that we mentioned in the first video. Came in that big crate, and we're gonna install it on the car. So that's gonna be the last thing we do this winter. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.